How to create a dynamic drop-down list in Excel that updates whenever we add new items to the items list. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different items, and the last one is wireless earbuds. However, if I go to my items list and add a new product, let's say new item 1, 2, 3, enter, and then I go back to the main dataset and click on the drop-down list, I can see that this new item is already available to be used. And another benefit, if I add a new row, let's say January 2nd of 2027, enter, and go to the drop-down, click on the down arrow, I can check for all the products, and the new one is already here. So step by step from scratch, we are going to see how to create our own drop-down list with this dynamic range. The first step is format the dataset as a table, because a table has many benefits in Excel, and instead of use a regular dataset, we can transform it in a table, and I'm going to show you why it has a lot of benefits. But first, let me transform the dataset into a real table. I can select everything, all the columns and all the rows, and then I can go to Insert tab and then Table. Excel is going to open this dialog box and make sure you check the option My Table Has Headers, and then click OK. Now we already have a table in Excel, and one incredible benefit to use a table in Excel is whenever you add new rows, let's say I add here a new date, January 1st of 2027, enter, Excel is going to automatically update the table and the range grows dynamically. So I have a new row within my table. And this is very beneficial because we are going to create a list using the range of products that we have, all those cells. And let's say I select this range right here. In the future, I may have more rows. And that way I need to grow, extend this range to all the rows that I have. I don't need to do it manually because the table do the work for me. So this is why I always like to use a table in Excel instead of a regular range. But let me get rid of this last row, right click, delete table rows. The second step is build the items list. And I always like to go to the Excel footer and click on the plus sign to add a new blank sheet. Right click here and then rename. I can call it list, enter. Here is where we are going to create our list. Instead of manually input items within the list in Excel, we can create here a very small table with only one single column, and by this table we can connect with our main dataset, with our main table, where we are going to use the table itself. Let me increase the width of column A. In between A and B, I can click, hold, and drag to the right. Let me call this column as products. However, guys, you can use any different type of list. You can use status, let's say, OK, open, cancelled, etc. Status. You can use actual names, products, categories, etc., etc. In this case, I'm going to use products. Let's say laptop. I'm also going to use wireless mouse. Also going to use wireless keyboard. And also make sure you select everything and format as a table. Because for the same reason we talked before, the dynamic range that grows automatically and etc. So insert table, my table has headers for sure. So let me check the checkbox and then OK. So those are my items. And now that we have the list itself with the items, we can move on to the third step, that is link the drop down that we are going to have right here with the items list. And to do that, let me jump back here to the items list, and in any blank cell, let's say this one to the right, I can go with equals sign, and then I select the entire range of my list but the header. Okay, you do not need to select the header. Select everything but the header, because Excel is going to give a reference such as the table name, and within these square brackets, the products, that is the column name. That's it. Now I can select everything but the equal sign, right click, and then copy. Let me press escape in my keyboard. Now I can go back to the main dataset, select that range where I want to include the drop down, and don't need to worry about the extra rows that you might use in the future, because if we are using a table in Excel, the table can handle those new extra rows in the future. So select the items that you have and where you want to include the drop-down list. Then you can go to data, all the way here to the right, data validation. And instead of use any value, we can change to list. And within the source, pay attention here because it's crucial. Equal sign, and we are going to use a very special function in Excel, indirect. Open parentheses and open quotations. Then we can right click and paste the reference that you copied. Close quotations and then close parentheses and then hit enter. That's it. Now we have the drop-down list already working with all the items: laptop, wireless mouse, wireless keyboard, and etc. And that leads us to the fourth step, that is test the drop-down. If we input here a new row, and by the way, to actually add new rows into a table, doesn't matter if you have many columns like this data set, or if you have only one single column, what you need to do is you go to the first blank cell that you have immediately after the last information, and then you add any information. Let's say I can go with quantity, date, price. Let's say quantity equal to 3 and then enter. Excel is going to add a new row for me. And as the product, I want to click in the drop down because it's already here. This is why it was very important, at least in my opinion, to use a table in Excel, because the dynamic range. I can select whichever product I want. Let's say wireless mouse. That's it. It's working. So the drop-down list is working. And now let's see if I add a new item, this new item is going to be included here. Right now I have 1, 2, 3 different items. If I go back to the list items, I can add one more. Let's say JP 1, 2, 3, enter. And if I go back to the main data set, click on the drop-down list, the new item is already here. And if I add a new row, let's say January 2nd of 2027, enter, click on the product, I can see that this new item is already appearing here. And finally, the fifth step is fix errors. But what kind of errors? You can see in Excel, and it's very common, this little tag, this green mark. But why is that? Because every time Excel is using a drop-down list and a item such as wireless earbuds is not part of the items itself, Excel is going to create this little green mark. Let's say wireless earbuds. If I click on the drop-down list, I cannot see this item on the list. So this is why Excel is telling you that the item that you previously used in the dataset doesn't belong to the items list. So to make sure we can adjust those errors, what we can do is we can register all those items within the items list. Let me show you an example here. 15 inches laptop. If I go back to the items list and then I register this exact product, 15 inches laptop, enter. Okay, I go back to the main data set, but Excel doesn't automatically adjust and fix the problem. So we need to do it manually. I already registered the product. Now I need to click on the first one and then select the correct product. And we can do it for all those other items that we have in this data set. So this is how we can easily create a dynamic drop-down list in Excel that updates whenever we add new items in the items list. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions, let me know, comment down below, and I see you in the next one.